Unit 731. The Imperial Japanese Army began its biological weapons program in the 1930s. This was partly because the use of biological weapons was banned in interstate conflicts by the 1925 Geneva Protocol. They argued that the ban had proven its effectiveness as a weapon. In 1932, Surgeon General Shiro Ishii, the chief medical officer of the Imperial Japanese Army, was appointed commander of the Army Epidemic Prevention Research Laboratory, AEPRL. Ishii organized the secret Togo Research Group for chemical and biological experiments in occupied Manchuria. In 1936, Emperor Hirohito issued a decree authorizing Shiro Ishii to build a prison in the Pingfang district of Harbin to conduct chemical and biological experiments. Thousands of men, women, children, and infants interned in POW camps were subjected to vivisection, which was often performed without anesthesia and was usually fatal. Vivisections were performed on prisoners after they had been infected with various diseases. Researchers performed invasive surgeries on prisoners, removing organs to study the effect of the disease on the human body. In other tests, subjects were deprived of food and water to determine the amount of time before death. They were placed in low-pressure chambers until their eyes popped out of their sockets. Experiments were conducted to determine the relationship between temperature, burns, and human survival. They were placed under hot fans and kept until they died. Unit 731 tested many different chemicals on prisoners and had a building dedicated to gas experiments. The substances experimented with were mustard gas, lewisite, cyanic acid, white phosphorus, and phosgene. There was also a field base where prisoners were tied to dug-in beams and grenades were used to see the damage caused. None of those who entered the 731st unit came out alive. Usually, prisoners were brought to Unit 731 at night in cars painted black, with a ventilation hole but no windows. The prisoners were then transported through a secret tunnel dug under the facade of the central building to the inner prisons. Women and children were held in one of the prisons, and men in the other. Once inside the prison, the technicians took blood and fecal samples from the prisoners, checked their kidney function, and collected other physical data. Once the prisoners were deemed healthy and suitable for the experiments, they lost their names and were assigned a 3-digit number that they kept until their deaths. When World War II began to end, all the prisoners were killed to hide the evidence. With the arrival of the Red Army in August 1945, the department was forced to hastily abandon its work. The ministry in Tokyo ordered the destruction of all incriminating materials, including those in Pingfang. Ishii ordered all members of the group to disappear and take the secret to the grave. Vials of potassium cyanide were issued for use in case the remaining staff were captured. Among the people who stayed in Japan after its surrender in 1945 was Lieutenant Colonel Murray Sanders, a highly respected microbiologist and member of the U.S. Military Biological Weapons Center. Sanders' responsibility was to research Japanese biological weapons. Sanders passed on information about Unit 731 to General Douglas MacArthur, who was the supreme commander of the Allied forces and responsible for the reconstruction of Japan during the Allied occupation. MacArthur made a deal with the Japanese informants, secretly granting immunity to the doctors of Unit 731, including their leader, in exchange for exclusive American access to their biological weapons research and human experimentation data. The Americans considered the research to be valuable and did not want other countries, especially the Soviet Union, to obtain biological weapons data. Decades later, on August 28, 2002, the Tokyo District Court ruled that Japan had committed biological warfare in China and killed many residents as a result. Subscribe to our channel. Here you will find many interesting stories that really happened in the history of mankind.